Good evening. As the world teeters on the brink of World War III, and as Brits continue to struggle with the cost of living crisis and a new government which is proving about as popular as herpes, we must turn our attention to a famous and wealthy actress whose dance partner on a TV show wasn't very nice to her. Amanda Abingdon, who is no doubt a lovely person and clearly a talented actress, complained to the BBC about mental and physical harassment at the hands of the Italian professional dancer Giovanni Pernice on Strictly Come Dancing. Now, this led to an investigation that lasted, wait for it, 9 months. This isn't the bloody Watergate scandal. This isn't COVID contracts or the post office inquiry. This is a TV dance competition. There were two parties involved and plenty of witnesses like producers, researchers and cameramen. I could have got this investigation done in a morning. Ultimately, the serious allegations against Pernice were not upheld. But he has paid the ultimate price, something that I predicted would happen in my Take at 10 on May the 25th of this year. BBC should stand up for their star Italian dancer, but I think it's more likely that their next choreographed move will be to throw him under the bus. Whether guilty or not, Giovanni Pernice has probably had his last dance. And unfortunately, Giovanni does look to have had his last dance. He's been banished from the show and is unlikely to return, which I think is a disgrace. His career is in tatters, even though 11 out of the 17 allegations, the most serious ones made against him, including physical abuse, were completely rejected. So it seems that this centres on what he said to his dancing protégé and how he treated her in training. But folks, welcome to showbiz. This is a TV programme with millions of viewers. The pressure to win is massive. The competition fierce. It's a boot camp in sequins. It's a tour of duty in wigs. And literally, it is a military operation in high heels. And Giovanni Pernice is the best in the business, probably because he's just as hard on himself. He's a gifted dancer with a performance CV as long as your arm. And he's an extraordinary physical specimen, with a six-pack so robust you could eat your breakfast off it. He's won the competition in the past because, yes, he is a perfectionist. If you do a dance competition and you want to win, you're going to have aching limbs, grazed knees and a bruised ego. It will be physically and mentally draining. You're going to land on your backside. There will be bumps and scrapes, sweat, blood and, yes, tears. A lot will be asked of you and your teacher will be harsh as they demand the best. Now, Abingdon clearly had a rough time on Strictly, and that is a real shame. She's had a year of hell, and my heart goes out to her. Her mental struggles are a real concern, and I hope that she's getting the best support. And it seems that Pernice was at times overly harsh and verbally abusive. It's not good. But is it a sackable offence? Or rather, is it a quiet word in his ear from one of the producers to cool things down a bit? As the brilliant journalist Alison Pearson points out in The Telegraph this week, Pernice showed extraordinary patience when guiding the profoundly deaf actress Rose Ayling-Ellis, with the two of them ultimately winning the show. Pernice also reached the final with Paul Daniels' famous other half, Debbie McGee, who spoke of her time working with Pernice fondly. Others, like presenter Laura Whitmore, implied that she had a rough time with the Italian. Fair enough, so perhaps he doesn't suit all personality types. But having been completely cleared of the more serious charges, Pernice's career in this country is now over. And Abingdon is considering suing the BBC for trauma and loss of earnings. And who picks up the bill for that if she wins? Licence fee payers. In other words, you and me. Now, Strictly is a great show. But with other allegations against other stars dating back many years, it is now limping from one scandal to another, demonstrating that BBC management have two left feet. If they carry on like this, the curse of Strictly could be fatal. Your reaction, gbnews.com/your say. Do you think that Giovanni Pernice has been thrown under the bus? Should he be reinstated as a professional dancer on Strictly, I think he should, but let me know your views. First up, tonight's top pundits, Dame Andrea Jenkins, Lord Corvier Ranger and Dr. Lisa Mackenzie. Let me tell you, I'm getting this walk across the studio is slower and slower every week. OK, Dame Andrea, lovely to have you in the studio. Welcome to Mark Dolan tonight. First of many appearances, I hope.
Thank you.
I don't think that you're addicted to Strictly. You'd be rather watching sort of Newsnight or Question Time, wouldn't you? That's more your area.
Well, it's probably because I'm so bad at dancing. You know, I would be like Anne Widdecombe if I went on there.
I think you'd probably win it. But listen, we can do a foxtrot later if you like. I think this is a question about how the BBC manages its programmes, and I think it's a huge failure of management. These individuals, you know, sort of commissioning editors, producers, they're on six-figure salaries. It's the licence fee payers who cough up the money, and they're not doing their job. This is a major failure of management, isn't it?
Completely agree, Mark. And when you look at the Hugh Edwards situation, I mean, how they turned a blind eye. They appeared to turn a blind eye for so long.
Correct. There are allegations around Hugh Edwards in the BBC newsroom for many years, preceding the allegations that broke in The Sun.
Completely. So, to me, what I don't like is double standards, and it appears to me there's double standards for who their favourites are. I mean, look how Gary Lineker gets away with being biased all the time.
Well, he referred to October the 7th, which, of course, the anniversary of which is on Monday, as the Hamas thing, which is certainly troubling. He described the Rwanda scheme as having echoes of 1930s Germany. He's still in post. Giovanni Pernice, a bit of a perfectionist, maybe a bit harsh with his words, out of a job.
And let's face it is Italian. They're very expressive Italian anyway, aren't they, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, you don't mess with an Italian, do you, Lisa?
No, well, I don't know. I think you can if you want to.
It can be fun.
It depends which one.
I've got Italian relatives and they can be quite fiery.
It depends which one. I mean, if it was Mussolini, I would probably say no.
Yes. I don't think Pernice was that bad.
But, you know...
Although I hear he's on the next series.
I think I watch Strictly. I like Strictly. It brings glamour and light-heartedness.
Correct. A bit of joy that we all need.
Yeah, I've always liked Strictly. And I have got empathy with Amanda Abingdon, actually. I think she had a really tough time because she is gender critical. She's a gender critical woman.
Yeah.
She had said things about women's spaces.
Which were perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, and at the time, when she went on it, she was immediately castigated by the pro-trans lobby. So they already started on her before she even, when they found out she was on it. So I think she had a really, really tough time. And I think when women speak out about things, you know, we should listen. And it's not just because they're women, it is because we know that there are power imbalances. Do I think that Gianni has also been thrown under the bus? Yes, and that is because of BBC poor management in the past.
Indeed. I mean, how can this happen on probably the biggest entertainment show on British TV? You've got cameramen there, sound engineers, producers. How can abuse like this happen on the watch of the BBC, our national state broadcaster?
Well, I think that's why you're asking the question, Mark, what level is this at? You know, is this about career-defining, destroying, you know, traumatic, et cetera, et cetera? And yes, there could be people who infer their experience, their lived experience, as they now call it, as it being traumatic for them, and we should respect that. But in terms of how the BBC approaches this, it should have probably taken a firmer grip, looked at what was happening, and maybe that's how it needs to do it across the board. I think also there's another element here that, who is the audience for Strictly? I know, Lisa, you're a fan.
I like it.
But I feel it plays to as quite a narrow band of middle England, dare I say it, you know, and doesn't really reach across. I've sort of dipped in and out of it.
You think it's a bit snobby? Is it a bit middle class?
It feels like it plays to it does play to an audience. You tick the boxes if you play it, because otherwise the rest of us are watching something else.
Yeah, I don't know. I think sort of that 7 o'clock slot on a Saturday evening is, you know, it's a family entertainment show, isn't it? So I think that it spreads across.
I don't see children watching it.
I think they do. They do watch it.
I think what I'm looking for is variation, and I'm looking for something on the BBC that appeals to a huge swathe of the country.
Do you don't think Strictly does that? Because I would say for its sins, it's one of those few shows that the whole family sits around to watch, don't they?
I think.
I know you're watching highlights of Spurs. I'm aware.
I genuinely am.
He said he's watching Ant and Dec.
I am watching. I watch Ant and Dec's Takeaway Saturday Night Takeaway because it brings people who are just genuine into my room, and I want to see that. But Strictly, look, it plays to an audience. I feel it's got a bit tired. I think it needs to look at, and maybe when that happens to a show, people aren't picking up on some of the other things that are problems on it, and that's why it does need to be looked at again.
Well, I tell you what, feelings are running high.
Although I think Andrea should be maybe on it next.
Well, I think I want to bring back Pernice, and I want Dame Andrea on the next series.
I think you need to be on it, don't you?
There you go. Well, I tell you what.
Who doesn't want to have a fake tan and loads of really nice, glamorous clothes and eyelashes?
I've known you for a long time.
I think it's okay.
Lisa, you're very beautiful. You have a Latin temperament.
Yeah, sometimes.
I think you'd be perfect. OK, look, folks, more to come. Don't forget my brilliant panellists back at 10:30 for the paper.